Seems legit.
Hey Legitimates! Welcome back to my channel. I don't know if you're in my Facebook group or not, but if you are, you saw that I bought this fabulous fabric to make myself an oven mitt. So today I'm going to show you how I do this with no pattern at all. So let's just go. Alright guys, so a couple of things I'm going to do. I am going to make a new one of these. This is my old one. It's literally got holes in it now, and this is why I've decided it's time. Also, this has been washed and soaked and it's still just gross. So the reason I bought it here is to see how long it is. It is 80 centimeters. So whatever that translates to in inches, I'm not sure. I've also got a grey tea towel here that I'm going to pair and make a towel topper because it matches the aprony dress thing quite well. I did put up several colours of tea towels I have in my house, but I liked that one the best. I've also got still a giant roll left over from when I was selling this. This is Bright, which is insulated wadding. So I bought heaps of this. I do not need this much. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fold it over like this. I'm going to measure how wide this is. So mine is 8 inches, which is 20 centimeters, depending on how you operate. So I'm going to take a ruler and my rotary cutter, and I'm just going to cut 8 inches, like that. So this is now way too long, but that's right. You don't really need a pattern for this. You might believe you do, but not really. I'm just going to cut off the seam allowance at the end because nobody wants that. Now the way to get around on the end to have it oval or shaped like this, you can just use a plate. Quite literally, get your plate, trace around it. I want 80 centimeters, so I'm just going to measure that. So 80 centimeters in inches is 32. If anybody only works in inches, 32 inches. I'm actually going to make mine 2 inches longer just because sometimes it's a bit small to get all the way around comfortably. So I'm going to make mine that big, which is wonderful. Then I'm going to cut this bit here, and again I'm just going to measure it, is 8 inches. So we're essentially now going to cut 2 8-inch squares. This one doesn't quite fit with the seam, with the edge, so we're not going to use that. We're going to cut some more. Now I bought heaps in case I wanted to do matching things for my kitchen. I'm still probably going to. I just haven't quite figured out what that's going to look like yet. So we're going to go 8 inches up. I'm going to cut up and across. And then I can do 16 inches this way. I love maths. Sewing's just lots and lots of maths, guys. Right, so there's 16, and then we can just line it up on here and then cut it in half. You could also fold it over and do it that way. Well, Jerosa and all that jazz. Done. So now that we've done that, we're going to repeat that, and I'm going to use a lining colour. I've picked this green because it was the closest one that went with it. I'm also going to use this for the binding. So again, I got a heap of this because I want to make something. I don't know, maybe I'll make a microwavable bowl set thing. Who knows? Who knows what I'll end up doing? But I just got a meter. They were both on sale when I bought them, so a meter really didn't cost that much. There's my 8 inches. I can cut another 8 inches here. Then I'm going to open this up, move this over so you can see. We're going to chop off this edge, and then we're going to chop it 8 inches. These bits are all rubbish. I don't know who, sometimes people collect them and use them as stuffing for things. It's not my jam. So this leftover bit here, I'm going to turn into binding. I'm not going to cut it on the bias, even though I I'm sure a lot of you think that I should. But I am just going to cut it into 2-inch strips. And what's left here should be enough to go all the way around. I say should be because it still might not be. There is a small chance I am incorrect. Not a big one though. Because this is 67, so we'll call it 60. So that should be enough to go all the way around with very minimal leftovers. So now they will need ironing before I do anything else with them. They need to be flat before I sew them, preferably. I'm going to take this. Now this might be too wasteful for you, but this is the easiest way I find to do this. So first off, because this is the longer bit, I'm going to stick this on here, like this. And we're going to just do the squares and then round it off later because I don't backstitch when I'm doing the quilting. So I'm just going to line it up first so it's right on the edge. I don't like to be too wasteful. And then I'm going to take my basting spray. This stuff makes me very, very happy because now I won't have to pin things. I don't like to pin things. I am lazy. A little bit there, a little bit on there, and that will be enough. Now, when using this stuff, please don't use it in a tiny little room with no airflow. I have air conditioning, so that will fix that. But if you're planning on doing like a really big quilt with this stuff, make sure it's in a big room, well ventilated, windows open, all that jazz. Okay. Now that is pretty much stuck. I can peel it off and readjust it. It's not glue, it's just almost glue. I'm now going to chop this out. Close enough. It's not perfect. It doesn't need to be. I also don't need that bit. Move that out of the way. Then I'm going to flip it over. Grab my other long bit. Oh, I haven't cut this down yet. That's alright. I'll do it in a minute. Spray along. I'm going to have the selvage edge hang over, so we don't need that bit in this. Line it up and stick it down. Now the reason we love basting spray is that now I'm not going to use any pins or clips or anything. Done. And I can now come here and chop off this excess here. If I want to. If it's annoying you, and if not, that's okay too. I've also got the selvage edge here that I can trim off. Now, we're not done with even that bit. I don't want to get burnt. It is a thing that can happen quite easily, just so you know. So what I'm going to do is that 16, oh, that's not quite 16 inches. That's annoying. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and a texter. Textures work better on this stuff. Maybe, maybe not. If you can see them. Can't really see that. Kind of annoying. I'm going to cut 4 8-inch squares. And you'll be like, why 4? And I'm going to show you, so just relax. 1, 2, unroll it. Now they won't fit here, so we're just going to leave that for another project for another day. There's always another project on another day. Alright, 3. Now they're not perfect, they don't really have to be. 4. And then we're done with this. 4's enough. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to open up one side. And on this end, I'm going to put a second one. So it's going to be doubly thick where my hand goes in so that I don't burn myself. because trust me, it sucks. And I learnt this a while ago. So you double up on the bit. So I'm putting it here so that when I put my hand on, this is double thickness and less likely to burn me. Because the first one I made, I did single thickness and it really wasn't as helpful as I was hoping. So now, just the ends, and you can see it, there is a distinct line, but we're going to quilt it and it won't matter. Then we're going to take our little 8-inch squares. And I'm going to quilt them before I cut my shape. I personally just find it easier. And this side doesn't need to be doubled up because this side doesn't touch the heat. Don't be afraid to use your basting spray. Alright. You can iron them out, but we're going to quilt it. It's really not a big deal. And this is the inside that nobody sees. So, you know, done. Let's go to the machine. Alright, let's draw on some quilting lines. Now, the funny thing about quilting lines is you can literally do whatever you want. I'm going to go 1 inch from this end. And the other thing is, because I've got 2, I can line these up together like this and draw double the lines at the same time. I'm going to do mine 2 inches apart. You don't need to have super close quilt lines if you don't want to. I'm going for something nice and big and chunky because it'll be quicker to sew. You can obviously do them closer together, but I didn't really have that issue on my last ones, so this will be fine. Nice big chunky 2 inches apart. You could also get fancy if you want to and do 1/4 inch each side of this so that they're double stitched, because that's cute too. Oh, let's maybe do that actually. And so then we have the option of, you can do opposite or we can do diamonds. So you can just put it on like instead of doing like a big angle like I just did and do it opposite like that, we're just going to kind of go on a weird angle here and do that. Mainly just because I can. But again, you do whatever you're comfortable with. And then later on we'll cut this down. The problem with doing this weird angle is now I have to replicate it, which isn't as hard as you'd think, but it's, you know, hard enough. If I join, see that line? I'm joining up those lines there so that then this line will continue up and that'll give me a base to copy like that. Now I'm doing both of these because I'm going to chain sew them. I personally think it's probably going to be quicker, or at least that is the hope. I'm going up to a 4 stitch length, which I already did earlier. And so I'm just going to start right here. If you've got a walking foot, oh, that sounded chunky already. That's not ideal. I am using my normal thread. Someone did suggest you can use cotton, which is fine, but I'm just not that worried if I'm honest. Alright. So I already forgot I was going to do the lines each side, so it looks like we're just going to sew into them. But that's okay. And then I'm going to cut that off. And this is the way to waste the least amount of thread, because each thing should have about the same amount of lines. It's not super thick, so it's not really a big deal. I'm not going to get a lot of puckering. It's also just an oven mitt. And if you go and look at the store-bought ones, sometimes they are just outright atrocious. So I'm not really going to overthink this. I'm just going to do. And the main reason we do the quilt lines is to hold all the batting in place when you wash it. And you will have to wash it because it comes in contact with food and dirty dishes and such. Even though I would like it if things didn't overboil in the oven. Sometimes these just can't hell. It is what it is. I feel like I missed one here. I'm just gonna do it. Alright, and then we're gonna go this way. Now these are some definite diamonds. They're not perfect diamonds. I didn't measure it. You can do like 60-degree diamonds if you want. They don't really faze me that much personally. I could also do this on the embroidery machine. It would just take a while, but it could look really, really cool. I could have found like a cool witchy design with a hat and stuff. But again, it's just an oven mitt. So while I am putting effort in, it's definitely not maximum effort. And I'm okay with that. I really am. I'm just following the lines as I see them. Happy days. So now we've got quilting lines. We need to repeat this on this one. However, this one is going to be slightly more stubborn. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this here so that I can copy the same shape of the quilt lines. You do not at all have to do this if you don't wish to. I just like my things to kind of match. So even though I made up the initial quilting pattern, you can copy it across without having to measure things. You just line it up and continue the lines. I could also do this with a friction pen. It's not like it's not going to constantly be in contact with heat. And that might be easier to see, I don't know. Depends on your fabric color. And you shouldn't be too worried about all of this falling apart because we've put basting spray. And over we go. Drawing the lines is the most annoying part. You can also, I did contemplate using one of my templates. So you can use a quilting template and then you just kind of use your pounce to put it on. I have that in a different video. But that was a lot of quilting work and I am aiming for quick and simple and effective, which is what I have here. Now this one's going to be more tricky because this end is thicker. So we're probably going to get some puckering. Not that I'm super worried, but just keep it in mind because it's probably going to happen. Alright, so line up those lines that way. And so then I just grab this line here and copy that one. You only need to copy one line across. Once you've got one line, the rest will just follow. And then I'm going to twist it the other way because I, whoops, find that easier. What have we got here? So, drawing lines. You might need quite a long ruler. So just keep that in mind as well. There's nothing terribly exciting about this. It's more about how to copy the lines across. Otherwise you're going to do a lot of measuring and personally, not interested. Now I'm still going to try and chain sew this. You guys might think I'm crazy, but I would prefer it to go as quick as possible, and constantly cutting off ends is not the quickest way possible. I am nearly there though. The 2 inches is a nice big amount. I like that. So, the way I'm going to start, now this is the chunky ends. The ends are going to be chunky. You just got to make peace with that. Right, and then I'm just going to grab another random part and sew it. Anything I can tuck under Right, do a little bit, chop it off. And so then I'm going to swing this end back around, and any lines that I can get done is what I'm picking. Is this the proper way to do it? Probably not. Do I care? Absolutely not. I just want to get as many lines done without having to constantly deal with giant tails. So whatever I can get tucked in, the better. You can try and do it in some kind of order, or you can just be completely random. All things are fine. Remembering that these ends are the double thicknesses. Which will make them extra squishy, but also extra safe for your hands. I don't know if they drew this in commercial ones or if it's just me, but my last oven mitt, that one that looked really, really bad just before, actually lasted me a lot of years. 6 maybe? For an oven mitt, that's not bad. So what we're not getting here is the center. The center is probably just going to have to be separate. But the longer I can do this, the better off I'll be. And I want to get as much cut. So we can do this angle too. Don't forget there's 2 angles you can do. Chop it. Makes it easier. Oops. Next bit. It's getting trickier and trickier. I will eventually, very soon, have to start not doing it this way. But that's okay too. You can also just stitch along here to the next line and do it this way, where you zigzag back and forth. And then I can just go down here. There's still no tail, which still makes it awesome. You can also just jump to the next one, like that. A million different ways to get to the same thing, honestly. Where am I up to this way? You just chop it as soon as you've got a couple of stitches. You're good to go. Alright, now I'm going to go here. And then wherever it's going to let me go next. So here. Trim it off. It's a bit like a puzzle. A lazy man's puzzle. Laziest way to do it. See, we're right near a point, so we can just change directions and go right there. Oh, and then there's another line just here, so we can start. Ooh, that didn't sound healthy. I made my belt come off my machine. That was fun. Don't know how I managed that. Skills, people. Skills. It wasn't a hard fix. You just lift up the machine and it loosens where the belt lives, and then you just put it back on. It wasn't a big deal. It just made a weird noise. Scared me a little bit. Thought I did more damage than I did. actually done all of the hard bit. All that end's done. It's just the middly bits that are left. I just gotta find some lines to do. It's really not taking that long. And the reason I'm recording all of it is to prove to you how long these things take. Except for the whole jumping of the thing. It took me maybe 10 seconds to fix. But I didn't know that when I paused the video, so. I've got 2 lines here, and I think that's it, if I'm honest. I actually think there's really not that much left. So again, shoving it under, trimming it once I've done a few stitches so I can maneuver it easier. And then I'm going to drive down this edge to the last line. Now, even though that was a really weird way to get to the same place, I got there. And we are done. And you flip it over to check. Right? And see if you've missed any lines. Because from this side, it's quite busy and you just don't know. Now we just need to round off this edge. You don't have to have round edges. You can quite happily leave it as a square edge. Although I haven't seen many of them. And then you just want to find anything curved. See how the curve's not big? And I mean, it could be. I could make that big enough. We're going to get a pen and just draw it. And then you can look at it and you can decide if you want it more curvy than that or if that's okay for you. I want it slightly more curvy. So I'm just going to cut it down. I've done half. Then, to make it even, we just fold it over and copy to the other side. Ta-da! Now the reason I like curves on the end is because you can do your binding in one swoop and you don't have to worry about corners. That's personally why I like to do it like this, but you can do it however you want. Right, curved. That's curved enough for me. So now, on this way, I want this to be facing the same way as the back. So if you fold it over like this, I want this to be here. I'm going to just temporarily clip it. We'll have to take it off, but I want to make sure that it's not upside down or something weird. So I'm just going to clip it there. And then we clip the other one on so that it's facing the same way, so that the pattern's right side up, like this. Now this is just temporary clip, so I'm only using a couple, like that. Then I can flip it over and copy the curve. Now, if you were to make these to sell in abundance, you might want to make a template for the ends. But since I'm making one for myself, this will be fine. And the curve is mainly, honestly, just so I don't have to stop with the binding. So these can come off now because we're going to have to start making our binding. Let me grab the bits. Okay, here are my bits. I lied earlier. I haven't ironed them, but I will have to get up and iron them eventually. So if you have a print, you put this one print side up, this one print side down, and we're going to make like a right angle like this, and then we're going to stitch from this corner here down to this corner here. Now, if you can't eyeball that, you literally place it here and then draw a line where you need to stop, because you can see the top one where you need to start. So if you need to do that for yourself, do it. Don't be ashamed that you have to do it. Now, from here, we're going to fold it over so that this is right sides up. And then we're going to grab the next one and put it right sides down. Homespun doesn't have a right sides up and right sides down, so I can just stick them however. But I'm letting you know in case. I just ran out of bobbin thread. Okay, so as I was saying, this is just in case you've never made your own binding before, and so you'll need to know that the right sides go together and how to always have the same angle. Alright, so I'm going to fold it over So now it's right sides up. Grab one that's not attached. Yes, I have grabbed the end before and attached it. It's a thing. And then again, under we go. You can also just buy bias tape if you prefer. That's all of them. This does work out cheaper, but more time consuming. So like everything, time versus money. And do they have the right shade that you need? So I'm now going to cut it off with just a little bit of a seam allowance. They'll go in the bin. Unless you have use for them, in which case stick them in a jar. I do not, and I am not being a hoarder of things. Even though I have a lot of things, I try not to be much of a hoarder of them. I try to use them all. I'm a little bit of a hoarder of fabric, I'm not going to lie, but I'm working on that. Okay. So, now the first thing I'm going to go and do with the iron is open these up and iron them flat. Like that. And then if you don't have the attachment I'm probably about to put on, you can iron it in half and then both sides into the center to make a double fold bias tape. Okay, so this is all ironed in the double fold. So I put both sides together and then I fold it in half and put a crease. The crease just helps put everything together nice and easy. So I'm going to take one of the smaller bits and pop this on so that the crease is right on the edge. And the idea of this, it means that we should be able to catch both sides in one stitch. So I'm just going to put my foot down, stitch and back stitch. Again, you don't have to use thread this thick. I'm just excessive and I didn't feel like using my domestic machine today. These can be made on a domestic machine. I just didn't want to. Each their own. Then we're going to get to the end and back stitch, and then I want to grab the other one and do it as well. Butt them up next to each other. Like so. Stitch, back stitch. Slide it in, squish it down with your fingers. You can also clip this on with Wonder Clips if that's more your jam. I'm quite happy to just kind of wing it. But that comes with practice and confidence. If you're not feeling that confident, don't feel bad. I used to never feel that confident. And also, sometimes you miss. It happens. Okay, so what I am going to do now, though, is making sure that these go on the right ends. Alright, you want to make sure that it's up the right way. What I am going to do is line this up and then tack it down at like 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Just so it's one piece. It's also slightly squished. You could also put this through an overlocker if you wanted to. But this is just making it so it turns into one piece and I don't have to fight the whole thing trying to join it together. This will all get covered. Don't worry about that. I'm not worried about it. You could have also cut your pieces bigger than you were tending to and then trim it down. Another option for you. Quilting does sometimes shift and move things, and it's not like I was keeping this flat and even the whole time, so that's on me. It'll still turn out fine though. I'll still love it. Okay, now before I go any further, I'm going to fold it in half, and I'm going to fold my binding in half, and then I'm going to hold it here, just slightly past, and make sure that it's going to go the whole way around. Now I've got extra here, so I'm safe, but it is something you may want to check. And I'm going to start right where I need to make sure it's going to cover. So see how it's going to cover up that little gap? We're fine. But it's always good to check, which is what I'm doing. And I'm gonna have my join probably here. Here looks good. I don't want it right in the middle. So we're gonna start. We're gonna stitch, back stitch, and then I'm just gonna open this up with my thumb and slide this in. Push it up against the edge and then stitch down. Now, if you need to. Oh, see, I've got a little bit of excess here. I'm just going to trim that off. If you want to, you can go around and clip it in place first. It'll be a quicker sew. You won't be fiddling as much, but you've got to do all the pinning and clipping first. So if you can learn to do it this way's quicker. But we just want to go nice and slowly to make sure that we're catching the bottom and the top at the same time. Otherwise we have to come back and fix it. And even though I will, I would prefer to not have to. Alright, slow and steady. It's a curve. Curves are always trickier. So we go slower on curves. Squish it down. This is also thicker than where I started. Where I started was only 3 layers of stuff. Here is many more. 7 layers. We're going through 7 layers of stuff here because of the extra wadding we put so we don't burn ourselves. As well as the bit to put your hand in. So just keep that in mind if you're struggling to get around that curve. It's because it's meant to be thicker. Nobody needs to stress about it. Right, then we get to the straight bit. Straight bits are always easier. Slot it in, off we go. I was really bummed out that I couldn't use my I have a double folded bias binding thing, but I can't find the feed dogs that go with it. So we can't use it because these feed dogs don't fit. Everything fits in its own place. Super annoying, but literally nothing I can do about that. Oops. Oh, wow. And by tacking these together before I go around, it's just way easier. Now, I could have done a different color here. If I was trying to actually do a Halloween themed one, I would have made this orange. Just for context. But I'm not, because I just liked the green color and the whole witchy vibe I'm digging. I looked at a lot of different fabrics. I went into Spotlight to try and choose a fabric, and I just waited for something to speak to me. And this is what spoke to me, probably because it's green. The theme of our house is black, white, wood grain with pops of green. My husband agreed to that too, funnily enough. His favourite colour is also green. Worked out well. So in the last little bit of the straight, again, you could have clipped this first so you didn't have to keep stopping like I am. There is nothing wrong with that plan either. Now I'm going to get to here and I'm going to trim off all of that. And so what we're going to do, I actually missed that whole first section. It happens. So all I'm going to do is clip it back in place. I don't know why, but me and starting binding always miss. It's like this magic skill that I have where I always miss. So I'm just going to pin it in place because we're going to go over the first bit anyway. So I'm just going to get some clips. I'm going to get a little bit closer to where I started. And then I'm just going to cut it so it goes a little bit past, about an inch past where I actually started. So that's the bit we don't need. So that was not much waste, really. And I'm just going to tuck under, you can't see because of the shadows, but I'm going to tuck under that raw edge. Then I'm going to remove that clip. Slide this on. Pull it over and clip that end in place as well. And then I'm just going to stitch past. I'm going to back stitch as well. And then I'm just going to come and re-stitch this whole section because I missed. And it is not okay that I missed. We can't leave it like that. And then I'm going to flip it over and see where else I missed. Now, here, very obvious problem. So we're going to fix that. And it fell off here. All in all, not too bad. Turns out the curves were the best bit, not the worst. So look at me go. I'm better at curves than straights today. So I'm just going to come from here. Again, this is where we just started. It's just me in the start of binding. Right, and then I'm just going to follow this all the way up to here so that I don't have to back stitch. And I'm going to unpick. Now, normally you would do this not under the machine, but again, I don't want to stop. So I'm just going to grab my sew awl and pull out the threads. Oh, come on, actually break. There we go. If you pull on every second thread, it comes undone pretty quickly. So I'm just going to go slightly past the big hole, which is all the way down here. So we've got to restitch about 3 inches. And this is my fault for not checking. But I'm really not that worried. You can fix anything, people. You just have to try. Okay, so now that's undone, I'm just going to pull the binding slightly more over so that it stitches it shut. Like that. And then backstitch. And then I've just realised I've now missed the front. Can't win them all. So I'm just going to come here, stitch, backstitch. And then go over the front bit as well. And also to lock in the stitches that I unpicked. So you're probably going to have to do that anyway. But now, there's no gaps. There's no white bit showing. Make sure you trim off all your tails. You can also add a loop if you need a loop. I put mine over the arm of the oven. But how cute is that now? So this is double padded, so I won't get burnt. The curves meant that I didn't have to stop with the binding. It's still new, so it's going to make that crackly noise for a while, but it'll get over it eventually. But how cute is that? So this is the first part of my kitchen set. I don't know what I'm going to put in the rest of the kitchen set yet, but that was a great start. You should definitely make your own. It's a relatively quick project. I don't know how long this video is because I have to keep stopping and starting. But it is pretty quick. Like, you could knock one over in half a day. Even if you're a beginner. Anyway, guys, I will see you in the next video.